Jane Fonda. During 2 weeks in the summer of 1972, she broadcast at least 10 times over Radio Hanoi, denouncing American POWs for having committed war crimes, urging the North Vietnamese to hold out against American imperialism. Many Americans would never forgive her for what she did and said.
According to international law, these men are war criminals. That's according to law, according to the Nuremberg principles, according to the Geneva Accord and others. They should be tried in front of a court and probably executed for what they did.
The disturbing thing is that the Vietnamese people are fighting for exactly the same things that the Americans fought when we fought the British.
In a second trip to North Vietnam, this one with Tom Hayden, to make a documentary called Introduction to the Enemy, Jane underscored her earlier solidarity with the North Vietnamese. If Jane's visits to Hanoi only were remembered by that documentary, or even by the footage of her on an anti-aircraft gun in her original trip without Tom, then perhaps her fraternizing with the enemy might have been chalked up to emotional exuberance or just plain stupidity. But when she willingly and deliberately took a microphone in hand and broadcast over enemy radio to American fighting men, she secured her place in contemporary history. Here, obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, are some of those broadcasts that many Americans have never before heard.
And here is movie actress Jane Fonda.
This is Jane Fonda speaking in Hanoi. And I'm speaking particularly to U.S. citizens who are stationed on the aircraft carriers in the Arctic Continent, in the 7th Fleet, in the Anglican Corps in the south of Vietnam. We're very far away, perhaps, and removed from a country that will be ordered to shoot shells at and bomb. And the use of these bombs, or the condoning the use of these bombs, makes one a war criminal. The men who are ordering you to use these weapons are war criminals, according to international law. And in the past, in Germany and in Japan, men who have committed this kind of crime were tried and executed.
The broadcast caused Colonel George Day to fear the reaction of his fellow prisoners.
It's difficult to put into words how terrible it is to hear that siren call that you know is so absolutely rotten and wrong. It was terrible. I was very frightened that I was going to get one of my people were going to get killed from doing something really dumb to just out of anger.
And here is movie actress Jane Fonda addressing U.S. pilots and airmen.
This is Jane Fonda in Hanoi, and I'm speaking to the men in the cockpits of the cabins, in the business rooms, your F-boys, those of you who are still here fighting the war. All of you, and you are caught apart. Know the lies. You know the cheating on the body count, the falsified battle reports, and the number of planes that are shot down, and what your targets really are. Knowing who is doing the lying, should you then allow these same people and same liars to decide for you who your enemy is? Shouldn't you then, shouldn't we all, examine the reasons that have been given to us to justify the murder that you are being paid to commit? If they told you the truth, you wouldn't fight, you wouldn't kill, so you were not born and brought up by your mothers to be killed. So you've been told lies so that it would be possible for you to kill.
That was Jane Fonda speaking to U.S. pilots and airmen.
With those seldom heard radio tapes, Jane invited a public persona far different than her father's patriotic image as Tom Joad and Mr. Roberts. Hanoi Jane would henceforth rank right up there with World War II enemy propagandists Tokyo Rose and Axis Sally.
I bring greetings from our Vietnamese brothers and sisters.
And American POWs came home with horror stories of torture. Jane accused them of lying.
I was kept in stocks where our feet were placed between two logs. I spent over 3 weeks during one period of time that way, not even allowed outside to defecate, and had to lay in my own defecation.
I had something like 400 and some odd strokes of a fan belt in one torture session where my buttocks were just hamburger. And this was in addition to 37 or 38 months of solitary.
You could not spend 27 months in solitary confinement, 1 year in a black box, without coming out emotionally damaged. I think all of us did, one way or the other. But we were able to end up covering it up, or maybe putting it just a little in our past, yes.
The past would not be forgotten by many veterans who suffered it, and it would rear its ugly head again and again for the woman they called Hanoi Jane.